All right, thank you for coming to the first panel of the Retail Development Afternoon, organized by REBEC for the second time in partnership with Retail C Group. I'm Nevena Kostic, the owner and director of Retail C Group. We manage the first business portal dedicated to the retail market in Southeast Europe, which means that on our website, retailse.com, we publish news about retail projects in the Southeast Europe region and about the expansion of local international retailers in Southeast Europe. If you're interested in this type of information, if this is needed for your business, please speak to me after this panel so I can take your details and subscribe you to our free newsletter so you can stay up to date with what's going on in the market. So this panel will be focused on retail parks, and we'll divide this panel into three parts. So the first part will give a chance for our panelists to introduce themselves and give us an overview of their retail activities in Serbia. So we'll see, what they have been doing so far, on what projects they're working right now, and what they have in the pipeline. And then the second part, I've prepared some questions to discuss retail park trends. We don't want to talk about general, what is the difference between a shopping center or a retail park, but we really want to focus on what happened in the past years regarding rent, tenant mix, layout, locations of retail parks, etc. And then the third part is where you step in. I would like you as an audience to participate with your questions in order to ensure that you get the information that you need from this panel. So let's start with the introduction of panelists. The first person sitting next to me is Mihail Agustin from RC Reinvest, developer of retail parks. Please introduce yourself.
First of all, thank you for the invitation once again. Thanks to Alexandra Opšenica to invite us. Reinvest, well, I'm the director of Reinvest for Serbia and Croatia. We are present here in Serbia almost 3 years. And at this moment, we secured and, let's say, start the development and construction of 4 retail parks. At this moment, we have the first pilot project under construction, which is the retail park in Kraljevo, in the central part of Serbia with 5,000 GLA. That's the first pilot project for us here in Serbia since we are present on the Central European and Eastern European market almost 11 years. We started development and operations in the Czech Republic 10 years ago by the development of retail park concepts. And after that, within a couple of months, we de facto started operations in Romania with close cooperation with Penny Little Market and Kaufland. So this is our, briefly, the core business. So back to Serbia. So at this moment, we have under construction 5,000 GLA in Kraljevo. And we would like to start up in the next few months, hopefully the second project, let's say small size, middle size retail park, first phase, next to Lidl in Vršac, which is, let's say, the second ongoing project at this moment. And in the meantime, we also secured a position in Obrenovac, which is, according to my opinion, the best retail concept. Maybe we can discuss later on, with almost 10,000 GLA. For a satellite city of Obrenovac, which is pretty close to Belgrade. We strongly believe in this position. And finally, just briefly to finish my speech, we secured a position in Ruma, which is a smaller city in Vojvodina region, close to Sremska Mitrovica, Mitrovica, close to highway in direction to Zagreb. And again, Vojvodina, according to our opinion, has a great potential for the future. So because of that, we took the decision to develop in a close cooperation with Lidl, Delhaize, other partners, this, let's say, semi-size concept over there.
So,
and this is it.
Yeah, to sum up, so RC Reinvest is going to develop about 5 retail parks across Serbia. Am I correct, or 3?
At this moment, we have 4 positions.
4 positions.
Let's say 4 projects, and I hope that within the next few days, we are going to sign the 5th project in Užice. Yeah. So 4 or 5, and the retail parks are going to be called Nest, right? Yes. This is going to be a new retail park chain in Serbia. Yes. Nice. Nest, like a bird nest, yeah. A bird nest, yes. It's a completely new brand, which is de facto created a couple of weeks ago for all 4 countries, Czech Republic, Romania, Serbia, and let's say also.
And these retail parks are going to be between 5,000 to 10,000 square meters.
5,000 up to 15,000.
15,000. All right.
Depends on the market, catchment area, location,
Okay, so
country.
this is something new, yeah.
Yes.
Jelena Radulovic is the director of one of the leading consultancy companies that has done a lot of research in the retail market in Serbia. Please, Jelena, give us an overview of your activities.
So good day, ladies and gentlemen. For those that don't know me, I'm, I would say, a pioneer in real estate in Serbia from 2001 in Colliers and now from 2007 for the 10 years in CBRE. I would say we are the leading consultancy company. In retail, we do all concepts, including high street retail, which is very important, especially for new entry tenants that come to a market like Serbia, which is not that large. So in general, I'm very happy to be with colleagues and investors and you, Nevena, at this panel. So very short.
Third panelist is Mia Zečević. She's the partner director of Novoston Asset Management that has a lot of experience in retail park developments. Please, Mia, introduce yourself.
Thank you, Nevena, for introduction. My name is Mia. I've been into real estate for almost 12 years now. I used to work for MPC and Ušće Shopping Center, at that time the biggest developer in the country and in the region. It was a different time when we started, a long time ago. Then 4 years ago, partner and I, we spun off and established independent asset management platform because we saw that there is a lack of that offer in the market and especially also in the region. When I say in the region, I think on Serbia, Croatia, Bosnia, Macedonia, Albania, and all these countries that are tricky to enter without a local knowledge. We offer a full set of real estate expertise in a sense that we do from the very beginning strategy with the client, concept for the client, then leasing, marketing, reporting, finance, legal. So we cover all sets of offers in real estate, and let's say retail is our expertise. We also cover everything in real estate, office and residential, but we are not so much into that how we have an expertise in retail. We work with a lot of foreign investors that are present in the country, and we also work with the local ones. So that's more or less.
Yeah. Do you want to name now your main retail park developments that you're working on right now?
There are a lot of them. So basically we work with everybody who's present in the country, starting from Imo Finance, Nepi, Avi Varlon, and all these areas that are already present. So more or less we are like acting as an independent platform in order to give the best know-how to each investor separately regarding their needs.
Okay, thank you. I mentioned that Jelena Radulovic is working for one of the leading agencies that has done a lot of research in the retail market. So Jelena, could you give us an overview what happened in the past year regarding developments? What is the supply of retail parks now and what is in the pipeline?
Okay, so I'm sorry you cannot view what I'm looking at, but I'll try to give you more eye contact so that we can share information. And I don't know if it's allowed, but I would like to make it, if it's possible, a little bit dynamic. If somebody has questions, please feel free to.
Yes, of course, they can ask questions.
So in general, what are retail parks? It's a very basic question, but I think we all need to agree that these are unenclosed shopping areas, and they usually are containing various retailers, and they're in a form of a strip mall. So this is with a common parking area. So this is the main distinction between, I would say, a retail park and a shopping center. So I guess most of you are familiar with that. The basic specifics of a retail park development and the key factors that are attracting customers to this format are one-stop shopping concept, easy access directly from the parking lots, free ample parking, wide range of retailers with value for money brands, and shopping combined with leisure and entertainment activities. We've seen a few examples of those, and we can discuss it a little bit later.
Yeah, later.
So what are the key factors that attract investors to this format? And Michael, please agree or disagree with what I'm going to say. So the lower construction costs, the shorter construction period, which we all know is very important because in retail timing is everything, more flexible layouts, attractive retail formats to the tenants due to the lower rents, and possibility to be developed in phases. So we have very few examples of retail park that have even come to 5 phases, like Avevarul and Pančevo, which in my humble opinion is the most successful retail park in Serbia, I believe.
How many retail parks do we have right now, and what is in the pipeline?
Oof, you now caught me off guard. I'm not sure if you know, it's a little bit difficult to say how many of them are in the construction phase, which of them are operational. Let's say, Mia, you can help me. We have about 10 that are operational, huh?
There are 20, there are 12 of them at the moment, but until the end of next year, we're going to have around 21.
Yeah.
When we talk about the retail parks.
Yeah, so the first retail park in Serbia was developed in 2010. It was Delta Retail Park in Kragujevac, and it was big boxes. It was just a couple of retail units. And then in 2011, Avivarul developed a bigger retail park. Since then, we had a rise of retail park chains. So we have Shopee now, we have Shop and Go, Stop and Show, so Capital Park, and now we have Nest. So the question for Mikhail is, what happened in the market? Why all of a sudden have developers decided to expand across Serbia and develop these retail park chains?
Okay. Well, I think it's a logical evolution of the market. I don't think it's just because of Serbia, but logically, and I can compare due to our experience from last 10, 15 years, mainly from Czech Republic and Romania. And I think it's a logical evolution because unfortunately for us, for the developers, we do not see so much potential to develop in other, let's say, mother countries. So in the Serbia, due to the political, let's say, progress and macroeconomic progress, we can see a lot of potential here. So Serbia for us is a logical step ahead, and we can feel really comfortable here. And that's basically the point why the developers are searching for the new investment opportunities.
But was the entrance of Lidl and maybe announcement of other supermarkets or IKEA have influenced investors now to chase land in these small cities to expand?
Definitely, I can confirm and fully agree that the Lidl is for us some kind of frequency driver, the engine of the development. But it's not only about the Lidl, of course. Maybe I can present here our, let's say, highest interest to cooperate also with Deleze, especially here in Serbia, which is for us also very important partner, food retailer. So it's not just about the Lidl. Lidl has a specific concept. Lidl will definitely attract the retailers. That's our core business here in Serbia. We can discuss later, but yes, you are fully right. Lidl is somehow activating, warming up the market, and that's what perfectly fits in our concept generally.
All right. So now investors are chasing land, you know, to follow Lidl and these other retailers, and we've noticed that some investors have bought land in the same cities. Mia, you're in asset management. What do you think? How can, let's say, 2 investors develop 2 retail parks or a shopping center and a retail park in a smaller city? How can these projects compete with one another, considering that the tenant mix is kind of similar? What are the strategies for a retail park to be successful and to compete with other projects?
Yes, we have now a situation in the country that it's first come, first serve. So basically, when we talk about secondary cities, it's especially for the retail parks, it's the size, location, population, everything matters when you develop a retail park. And of course, one of the most important thing is tenant mix you deliver to those secondary cities. So basically, now we have a principle of first come, first serve when we talk about other cities in Belgrade, and let's say major cities like Belgrade, Novi Sad, Kragujevac, and Niš, they are the only ones that actually have capacity for the shopping center. And I mean, more or less, when NEPI finishes its project next year in 2018, all 4 major cities will be covered with shopping centers. So you'll have only opportunity then afterwards to develop retail parks. But you have to look at all the parameters when you want to develop one. And of course, you have to be the quickest one at this moment, because Serbia is still a bit poor country, so it cannot manage 2 at the same city.
So, you know, the first one is going to be ahead. You have the same, you know, similar tenants, but can we do something about entertainment? Maybe attract more visitors through a cinema? Cinemas are now becoming popular in retail parks.
Yes, and especially foreign investors, they don't like cinema so much because their experience in their developed countries, it's completely and radically different. You have in all Western countries, let's say other countries than our region, retail parks only composed of large supermarket, and then you have 5, 6, up to, I don't know, 10 units, depending on the retail park size, of big tenants. And here we completely developed a new strategy, a new approach, especially because we are talking about our market in Serbian people who are a bit different than others, and you need to offer them something completely different in order to drive them to spend money. So we as Novaston developed a completely new concept in Niš. It's for IMA Finance clients called Stop Shop Niš. In that development, it's around 14,000 square meters, but there you have a Cineplex for a cinema operator, you have leisure, you have a playground, you have small units, you have services, you have coffee shops. So this is completely different approach what we developed. It was a risky thing to do at that time, but now it seems there are more or less all the investors copying in the developed countries. So this is something different what they had before, and now what they're trying to achieve in the more developed and more, let's say, competitive countries.
Yeah, so this is an ongoing trend in Serbia. The retail parks are becoming a little bit hybrid, like shopping centers. They have more smaller size units, agreed, more services, more entertainment.
Sorry, we call them especially shopping centers and open, because the complete offer, it says in shopping center, but you don't have the covered thing which shopping center has.
Yeah, great.
So what I was going to share, okay, so what I was going to share is a little bit about the research where you started about the food anchor being the first phase tenant of a retail park. So this is definitely true. And we see this, that the hypermarket occupies from 10 to 15% of the retail park. Then we have 3 to 5 being electronics, 5% about beauty and health, 3 to 5% kids and toys, which I believe is growing in our segment, 5 to 8% is shoes, 5 to 10% is sports, and then we have fashion, of course, being up to 50%, and homeware from 10 to 15%. I think we all know we have a huge lack in certain segments of the market, but I just wanted to briefly touch on the entertainment complex, because we've done 2 deals with Cinestar in Aviv Pančevo and Aviv Zrenjanin. Aviv Zrenjanin was a very tricky concept to develop, because the developer chose to develop it all in first phase, or actually all in one phase, so the full GLA was delivered at once. And Cinestar was one of the tenants from, let's say, almost the very beginning. And I'm very happy to share some good news which I've received from their management, that their growth in sales has been up to 15% in the city of Zrenjanin, which I believe is actually, for the city itself, is to rediscover actually the entertainment. Because what we have in Serbia is in these secondary cities, which I think is important to discuss about retail parks and concepts, is there was no shopping at all. Yeah. So we've had all department stores which have died their fate, which we all know. And then the supermarkets became some kind of hybrid concepts of mixed, let's say, use shopping. So now the retail parks are actually rediscovering shopping for all these secondary cities. And we have the example of a small city of Jagodina having its retail park with now a planned second phase, which I believe is good. But it's also very important to address the local market and to make this really something which Pančevo project has achieved, like the new center of the city. This is also a fact which I think is very important for retail parks, which is the working hours. As people from Serbia know, we didn't have any, let's say, weekend shopping before. So basically from 3 o'clock on Saturday, you couldn't buy anything. So this was also a major attraction to the retail park, which would operate late on a Sunday. And as we know, we're coming forward more to the west, which means longer working hours. So this is also another attraction which I believe retail parks offer. And our people not being so spoiled during all the difficulties we've had in the, let's say, past 20 years, are not so spoiled in order not to go to a retail park when the weather is bad. So this is also something which has proven to happen, and even during the winter they actually have enough visitation and enough sales to support them. So this is also important.
All right, this is a question for all of you. So entertainment and leisure is important in order to increase the visitors' flows. We said that retail parks are becoming hybrid. What is happening when you're developing a shopping center? You need to reach a certain rental level. But you have these cinemas, they usually ask turnover fees, etc. How flexible are developers? How flexible are banks nowadays? So, Mikhail, first let me know, do you think that entertainment and leisure can improve a retail park? And how do you react when they ask you about these turnover fees? And how do banks react regarding this?
Okay. Well, definitely I can fully confirm and agree that's opinion. For example, now we identify that it's really crucial element which is necessary to be really developed. For example, now in our new concept in Obrenovac, we really seriously think about internally how to design the mix of leisure, mix of potentially even cinemas, mix of, let's say, food courts, let's call it food court, gastro, cafe, restaurant, leisure mix zones. So without having that, it's almost impossible to develop this. Again, comparing to Czech Romania, it's a completely different approach, different attitude of Serbian customers. So I can fully confirm it's something new also for us. We have to develop this kind of, let's say, supplementary functions in the retail park. It's getting more and more important because here in Serbia, the retail parks are becoming, in my opinion, de facto new meeting points, new galleries, new meeting points for especially young people. So it's really essential part, and maybe ladies can help me later on how to define all the details in our concept.
Are banks now more flexible when you say, okay, we signed a lease agreement with a turnover fee? How do they react?
I would differ. The turnover rent is a special discipline. I would say almost decathlon, mainly regarding project financing. Colleagues from the banks, hello. I can differ between the turnover rent and the segment of the fashion retailers when, and I'm pretty sure the ladies can confirm, in a case you are able to sign the anchor fashion tenant, then the turnover rent is not a problem at all, and especially in case you can somehow increase the occupancy ratio even during the construction. On the other side, the turnover rent in this specific segment, honestly, I do not have so much experience because it's also completely new for us. But again, due to the minor, let's say, percentage of occupancy which relates to those, let's say, leisure functions, I do not expect any problems regarding project financing.
Jelena, you're good at this. You've negotiated lease agreements with cinemas.
I have to be very, specific when discussing this. So in cases of turnover rents, I think up to now there wasn't a great willingness. Mia, correct me, of investors to actually agree to turnover rents for various reasons. This is also a question on our high street. We come, retailers come from the CBRE network globally, and they expect certain standards to be followed. Unfortunately, Belgrade as it is, and some of my ex-colleagues can confirm this, are not so welcoming to these turnover rents. So in general, from what I know from my experience, only big international anchor tenants like H&M, which is understood a way to enter into a retail park in Serbia. And I think Aviv Pančevo was the first in CE that H&M has entered, has agreed to have a turnover rent with the developer. So this is a tricky one. For all the other ones, for cinemas, for example, they can agree on a bonus factor. They will pay a fixed rent, and of course, if there's excess sales of tickets over a certain number, I think they can afford to give this as a bonus side. But I don't believe this is ever going to happen, that we have other tenants, seeking for turnover rents. Mia, maybe you can correct me, but this is my experience.
More or less, it depends mostly who the investor is, how big the portfolio is, and how strong you are when negotiating with them. When you have international commercial investors like we do now, they have the strength to basically, let's say, push them for the fixed rents, and especially when negotiating with them because of the headquarters and everything, what they offer them overall. This is the experience we have, more or less, because some of the international tenants actually go only on turnover rent. They accept to go on fixed rent, but this is more or less advanced payment. And then you do some reconciliation at the end of the year. Mostly banks here like to finance projects like these ones because these are the secure projects, especially in real estate. And basically what the banks look forward always for 70–80% lease agreements to be signed, and then 30 to 40% of equity in order investor to participate. Well, once you have international investors, I mentioned, they have a lot of, let's say, capital and equity they want to invest, so they start straight away with the equity, invest everything, and build up the project, and then afterwards they go for the project financing with the banks because that's easier for them because of the time pressure and everything what they have. You have four more main large anchor tenants that actually, when we talk about retail parks as for turnover rents, that's CNA, H&M, and now LPP group from Poland that actually enter the Serbian market and is willing to enter also retail parks. And these are more or less the ones that you have to play a game and to be smart in order to know who's expecting behind, whether it's a bank or an investor or what you're looking as a business model to be as a return.
Yeah, so to conclude, banks are becoming a little bit flexible because when you want to get financing, you have to reach a certain rental level. So nowadays, they see that the developer is becoming more of a partner with their retailer. It's you're going together in a business with the retailer. If you bring in the customers and they sell well, you get a percentage fee. What else can a developer do, a property management company do to, you're charging retailers service charges and marketing fees. What is the role of a developer to bring in visitors? What are the strategies for retail parks? We can, same question for everyone, so we can start with Mikhail.
Well, first of all, definitely it's the appropriate tenant mix, as was presented here. The secondly, definitely I think especially here in Serbia is to accent, to point out the meeting point. If you can present to potential customers from the catchment area that your retail park is the really meeting point, so it's not just for the shopping, it's also about let's say social functions, meeting of the people, sharing the information, drinking the coffee, see nice girls, looking for nice cars. That's really crucial. Those are the elements which you can hardly implement the Excel tables, calculations, budgets. That's really important what I can see here in Serbia.
Can I be specific? How much is now the service charge marketing fee for retail parks? Average. You don't have to tell us about your.
I think we are pretty standard, 1.5 euros per square meter plus VAT.
With marketing and service
including
charge.
Including marketing.
And do they get like some kind of promotion online, magazines,
yes, of course.
Events?
At this moment, we do not operate any retail park in Serbia. As I mentioned at the beginning, we have the first pilot project under construction, but of course we plan and intend to not only, let's say, grand opening, but we would like to support, to promote the retail park by some, let's say, regular marketing campaigns, of course not so frequently and not so aggressive as let's say shopping parks, shopping centers used to do, but that's definitely important, and we plan to do that.
Jelena, same question, but can you add what is the average rental level, service charge and marketing fee in Serbia for retail parks?
I think, Nevena, this really varies.
Yeah.
There's certain retail parks that were developed, as you mentioned, from 2011, and then we entered into a new stage, a new cycle in real estate. So I think it really varies, and there's certain developers like that Mia is representing that have a larger portfolio, so they kind of can keep the standard, So this is, I think, a case where, it really varies. It's very difficult to say.
But is there like a minimum, maximum, where, with...
Well, this is even varying in shopping centers.
Okay.
I can disclose that. So I think it's, doesn't give any value to what we're going to say, even if you give a range.
Have the rents changed since the past 2 years? Is there been a decrease, increase? with
well,
more
see,
retail projects?
the enlargement of the complexes of the retail parks actually decreases somehow the rents. And then again, as we discussed, you know, the big anchor tenants that have turnover rents, this is again something that varies, and from the experience that I can share, it's really up to the retailer as well to become a part of the retail park and to work on their sales. So we've had examples where, you know, I'm not allowed to mention names, of course, but we've had retailers that are considered to be lower fashion that outbeat the, you know, a certain, let's say, more to higher fashion or more popular fashion retailer who didn't do the, you know, the adjustment to the local community, didn't make their presence known. So the, you know, the people then didn't mind whether they bought it in Zrenjanin or in Belgrade. So I guess it's really important to observe the retail park like a shopping center, in a sense that all the retailers, all the units are leased. So all the units need to perform in total to make the retail park a success. And then there's certain, you know, Western standards that we're trying to implement in retail parks, and this is to enlarge the offering of food and beverage, which is something now that we're trying to do on the shopping centers in Belgrade as well. And I think this is very important then for the retail park to keep its position, and this is again answering your question, how can a shopping center and a retail park in the same city survive? This is really also then coming down to the management of the park, and to really, you know, making it close to the local community and living with it. So I don't know if Mia has different experiences.
Mia, same question. And can I just ask, what type of retailer is now the best performing in retail parks? What is the main driver? Is it a supermarket or something else?
Yeah, I'll go first with the first question you asked, because I think I can answer accurately to that question, because we have now we are operating and having pipeline around 8 retail parks in Serbia. So because besides asset management, of course, we do property and facility management. So average rents, and let's say the rents we are talking about retail parks is from 8 to 12, depending from the city, because each city is different. When we compare north, south, east, west, everything is different. And then you have service charge from 0.7 to 2 euros per square meter. Marketing, depending from the investor, how it's calculating, sometimes the investor spends everything and includes from the rental income, and sometimes you have completely separately as a cost. The investors I mentioned before, the institutional and foreign investors that are present here, they never had experience with the marketing in their countries they're operating, so this is something completely new which we somehow implemented with them and forced to do this, because Serbian, again, people, and especially Balkan people, are people who like experience, entertainment. They like to be driven to the retail parks and concepts we are talking about here. So this is completely different approach. Tenants which are really, really big drivers for especially secondary cities are LC Waikiki, H&M, CNA, and I think it's going to be LPP groupation, which is coming now to Serbia and also entering retail parks. They're entering some of the concepts we are now developing. And also cinema and supermarket, of course, is the primary ones, again, depending from the city. But not every city supports cinema, not every city supports all these brands I mentioned. So depending from the city and the retail concept you develop, it's differently.
Okay. Right. We're almost to the third part where you're going to ask questions, but I want to talk about the future. There has been an increase in online sales in the West and a little bit in Southeast Europe. Do you think this is now affecting Serbia, that more online sales will decrease the visitors flow, and will that affect the tenant mix of retail parks in the future for them to become pickup places? Yeah? All right. Mikhail.
Well, difficult question, because I would say I personally can see this new, it's not new, but let's say almost new trend, especially in the electronics segment, which is, I would say, significantly attacked by this new trend, online sales. And of course, and because of that, we can see by our discussion with our new potential partners, tenants, we can hear a lot of arguments, a lot of really significant feedback about this new trend, which is not a trend, it's just the reality at this moment. So that's the first what I would comment. The second, as I can see, Mr. Jacic from the JAK Sport, also the sport retailers are somehow let's say, affected, especially the trend will come definitely also in this sector. Other segments, for me, hardly to comment. Again, I do not have the, let's say, experience from the Serbia, but again, comparing to our other countries, it's a definitely trend which is going to influence the rent and the tenants. On the other side, I'm pretty sure that forever the main essential elements of the shopping will remain, since also in the electronic segment, for example, is really crucial, mainly, let's say, in the secondary cities for the local people, local customers, really to catch the product, to see the product, to really test the product on the spot. So according my opinion, in our business, in our specific segment, I do not expect some drastic changes in the let's say custom shopping habits, but yes, it is factor which should be somehow taken into consideration.
Yeah. Jelena?
Well, I mean, this is a big thing now in the West, and I think the shopping centers have been already affected, and a lot of the tenants have actually put very strong platforms to defend themselves, let's say, from the turnover that is actually generated in the shopping centers. I think this is yet to come.
Especially retail parks,
yes,
because they're more outside of the city.
Exactly.
And, yeah.
So I think, anyhow, what we've concluded, we've recently had a nice CBRE panel when we've discussed actually the experiences. And luckily, Inditex is not a tenant that enters so much retail parks, because they definitely have the best online application. And I think the biggest struggles globally and mostly in Europe are relating to them and their stores. So in general, I think for retail parks, it's really not so soon coming to them. But of course, the investors need to be on guard, and they need to prevent from this to happen, in the sense that it's going to actually destroy their P&L when they're planning a project at all. So in that sense, I think it's important to combine the mix of leisure and entertainment and food and beverage again, which is something that also in shopping centers is something that's becoming a bigger percentage than it ever was. We have very low, I have to say, offering and potential. We have some new great international tenants that are now ready to enter Serbia, which we are very excited about. And hopefully we will push them also for retail parks, because I believe this is the key element, and this is why the developers who realize this in time will prevent their projects of, failing at certain point. Yeah. Because the fashion cannot be the only, let's say, anchor that the retail park or the hypermarkets, because we've had it in shopping centers before. In hypermarkets, as we can see, are diminishing and shrinking in size, and they're not anymore traditional anchors in shopping centers.
So with changing technology, it's very important to have entertainment and leisure, because if you want to be sustainable in the future, because online shopping will become a trend in Serbia. Mia? Yeah.
Yes, online shopping will become a trend in Serbia. I think at the moment still it's just helping the whole offer we are now having in Serbia, and actually people still here like to go physically to the shops and touch, feel and everything. But again, there are some analyses which we are all, I think, aware in Serbia, that actually out of 7 million people you have 3.4 million on Facebook, then you have 3 million people all the time online on a daily basis. So these trends are going to follow, just we need to wait for the, let's say, Western and developed trends. But I think at this moment, online and e-commerce actually help a lot to the projects we have now at the moment in Serbia.
All right. Before I give time for you, just one more question. What are the hotspots now in Serbia? Which cities? Do we have an answer for that question? I'm sorry.
Yes, we do, of course. So I think Novi Pazar is a city that it's been completely kind of neglected, not because of I would say a purpose, but because it has difficult geographical positioning and structure of the land, I think. Also Užice, which I'm very glad that you found the location. Hope it's big enough. Leskovac, I believe, and Vranje, because we do see a lot of foreign investment, that's coming from the industrial and logistics point of view that is being based there, not to forget the tobacco giants that have entered a long time ago now. So I think these are, in our view, the let's say 4 hot cities for Serbia.
Mia, do you want to?
Yes, all the cities that have actually from 50,000 to 100,000 inhabitants living around in a catchment area of even more than that, then they're a hot topic definitely. But what Jelena mentioned, definitely the industries and the cities we have economics developed, these are also the hot topics. But also you'll have Lazarevac, Požarevac, Smederevo, Kraljevo, Užice, Novi Pad, all these cities are not covered and will be somehow covered, and I think they're a hot topic because this is the moment when we have to develop something there.
Mikhail, sorry. Yeah. You already bought the land.
Yes, we already covered Kraljevo, so what to say? Yes, I fully agree, all those cities are on the list of let's say, expansion pipeline for us. Of course, it's not so easy to secure the plot. Of course, there is relevant competition of the developers on the market. From my perspective, from our, let's say, yes, perspective, the secondary cities like Užice, definitely yes, Kraljevo, we are constructing over there. Even though I think we are looking, let's say, much more ahead, in front, so we can see a potential on, let's say, 3, 4, 5 years pace is we can see a potential even in the smaller cities, because this trend will definitely come also is coming to Serbia. Again, international comparison can help me a lot, so we can expect within the next 3, 4, 5 years also the cities around 25, 30, 35,000 people are very interesting for us. Of course, not to develop such a extensive retail concept, 10, 15,000 square meters, which is nonsense according my opinion, but reasonable, small, middle-sized retail, let's call it retail parks next to the food retailers. So that's my opinion, new trend coming to Serbia. All other cities, I fully agree, no comment. Novi Pazar, really specific city from my perspective, so that's correct to say.
Thank you. I hope that you like the questions that we have prepared for this panel. But now this is time for you, to get the information that you need. So please, if you have any questions, this is the moment. No? Don't complain after that we didn't cover everything. All right. Do you think that? Well, I'll continue. How much time do we have left? Is it 45 minutes or 1 hour? You're not being helpful today. Još 15 minuta. Okay, I'll. I think that we covered all the topics. Huh?
I'm Ivan Gazic from Bojević Partners Law Firm.
Thank you.
Jelena tackled an issue regarding existence of the retail park and shopping mall within the same city. So can we hear a bit more about the fact that if we have actually within the same catchment area a retail park and the shopping mall, who could suffer more and what would be the risks?
So we have this example in Kragujevac. I think you all know this, and Nevena mentioned Delta started and had quite a large plot of land in Kragujevac. Then there was an existing format of Roda, which was also like, let's say, a neighborhood concept of a shopping center, which had a lot of international tenants to host. And then Plaza started developing the project of a shopping center, not in the very city center of Kragujevac, but Kragujevac is a city which is quite spread. So in general, this has affected, I think, all of them. Roda has become dead. I'm free to say that. I think all of you that you know have seen it. Delta Park doesn't host almost any international tenants other than Taco. Please correct me if I'm wrong. And Kragujevac Plaza, or now Nepi's project, whatever, I think it's still called Kragujevac Plaza officially, is now becoming the home of all the international tenants who had the willingness and the courage to enter at that time into Kragujevac. So I think Kragujevac is a little bit of a difficult city to say, because it was really depending on one large industrial giant that was for a long time dying and now hopefully is reviving to its old glory. Let's say we all Serbians all hope that. So I think this has really affected also the retail scene in the city itself. We've had several tenants that were exploring the city center, but this has not been useful. So the shopping center as a format has been the easiest to accommodate the size of the international tenants, and again, even the smaller ones. So what we have seen there is the retail tenant, and maybe this is not really such a good example, but it's become obsolete actually to the shopping center to develop any further phase of the retail park, and then the shopping center has just taken the priority, and I think there's still work to be done there. As far as I know, H&M is entering this fall, so we will see. Some retailers are okay with it, some are struggling, but it's a real test over time. So because the shopping centers and the retail parks are big, let's say, investment toys where the developers spend a large sums of money, I think it's very important that they're in line with the local habits, local community, and what they can do to improve constantly the footfall and the turnovers, So I don't know if any of you want to add something. I've just tried to give a brief summary.
Hi, Patrick Franolic from Spiller Farmer. We heard a lot about development of retail parks. Have there been any sales? And what would be the yields? Who is looking at completed products in the market? Do you think there will be any sales in the next 6 to 12 months? And what would be the yield investors would look at? What's your opinion about that?
I'll answer to that because there are a lot of interest. Yes, there are developments, but there are also the existing retail parks, and they are on sale. And in further 6 to 12 months, some acquisitions will be definitely finished regarding retail parks. And the yields we are talking about now are 8.5 up to 9, because the market completely changed from last year, which it was completely different approach, and it was much higher than what we are now experiencing, because the market moved and everything changed from, let's say, past 2 years.
Yes, I agree with Mia. We are also at that number now, and I think it also depends on the portfolio the investor holds, because we've had you were asking who are the buyers, so we've had some secondary South African funds that came after the big transactions of the 2 main shopping centers in Belgrade. So and they were also having which Michael addressed, was the concern that a retail park over a certain size is becoming a threat, and a dangerous asset to hold. So it really depends on the portfolio the investor holds. But we've had different cases where a specific bought of a certain one asset could have a better yield than the total portfolio of an investor. So, but the numbers are there where Mia said so.
Mikhail, do you want to add to the question?
Again, for me, it's let's say pretty difficult to answer this question because we didn't, let's say, exit any kind of our projects here in Serbia. But I'm really pleased to hear your, let's say, to hear your confirmation. For example, since I put in my long-term investment models the yield around 9%, so which is somehow confirmed here. Sorry, I cannot confirm any example from our Serbian operations. I can again compare to Czech Republic, Romania. At this a couple of weeks ago, we divested 2 semi-sized retail parks in the eastern part of Czech Republic for the yield 8.5, or especially 8.25. So which is definitely not a yield for Serbia, and definitely not for next, correct me, 2, 3, 4 years, definitely not. But I think we can reasonably target 9% in the cities like Niš, Kragujevac, Novi Sad, definitely yes. So that's my, let's say, valuation, if I can say.
Any more questions? Okay, I have a question. What percentage of pre-lease agreements do now banks require in order to gain financing for a retail park? Who wants to answer first? Yeah? Yeah.
I think I covered that question when I mentioned that the banks actually what they ask, it's 70 to 80% of the pre-lease agreements. They have to be signed, and they're more or less asking for 30 to 40% of equity insurance. That's it.
You all agree, or?
Again, I can fully agree. We have completely new, fresh experience by financing our project in Kraljevo, so I can fully confirm, thanks to our cooperation with Piraeus Bank, they asked for 70% occupancy, which we fulfilled already. So 70%, maybe in some case, special cases, 80%. Of course, then it's a relevant factor which is taken into consideration. It's not just about the occupancy ratio, it's also about the, let's say, structure of the tenant mix. It's about the fascia anchor tenant. It's about the structure of the, let's say, base rent versus turnover rent. But definitely it's 70%, respectively 30% of equity is, let's say, standard for the project financing here in Serbia. And also I'm happy to say that also other financial terms for the project financing are getting closer and closer to, again, for us Central European standards. We are happy to see this trend, and we do not see any problems regarding project financing of the retail parks here in Serbia.
Question for, well, for everyone. You get rental income from the inside space. But how can you get rental income? Because when you're developing a retail park, you take a huge land, you have a lot for parking and for services, but can you use that outside space in order to gain also income? Mia.
Yes, this is again operational and, let's say, property management thing. It's called commercialization. So basically, apart from units you have and a part of the rental income you have from the tenants you entered, you have external income from, let's say, external agencies or clients or whomever wants to actually be on billboards, on, I don't know, promo stands and auxiliary revenue. This is completely new revenue, which seems at the beginning really little, but once you look at the end of the year, it's pretty much a big amount that actually comes from this extra revenue you can get, and it's called commercializing object in the best proper way.
They're now like retailers that, temporary retailers on the outside space.
These are called, let's say, promo stands.
Yeah.
You actually get some promotion, or you want to be present in the retail park only during summertime when the retail parks work the best, and they just put the temporarily...
There are more of this in Serbia now.
Yes, more and more or less, and it's basically short-term lease agreements. It's usually up to 1 year, but you have even less, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, 6 months. It depends what the tenant is and the client.
Would you like to add anything?
In general, what we've seen is, you know, it can be used for entertainment, so you can have ice courts, which are a nice add-on to the retail park and easy to, I think, to maintain as well. Then you have some smaller stands, but I think this is really a difficult one for the retail park, because again, then the strength that we, you know, we say is the free parking cannot be jeopardized by the entertainment segment. So we need to be careful with that, and I don't believe this is such a massive segment of income that you can receive comparing to the shopping center, of course.
Like
you
these
know.
temporarily units, like boxes.
Exactly. Also, it depends on the retailers. You know, in our market, we still don't have a lot of concepts that do pop-up stores, and this is something which is, again, seasonal, even if you do. So I think this will, you know, come with the development of the market and with some new entrants that will be ready to test the certain cities with these kind of pop-up stores, which are much cheaper, you know, to operate.
In Romania and especially in Hungary, there are a lot of pop-up stores now in retail parks, so it could be a trend that's going to move into Serbia. Mikhail, do you agree?
Yes, I fully agree. For example, now we somehow try to optimize the space, the parking spots in Kraljevo, also in Vršac. Now we are discussing internally regarding Obrenovac how to implement those additional, let's say, coffee shop, bashta, terraces, which are de facto the minor income. It's almost zero comparing to other tenants, but it can bring you a lot of really significant footfall. So, for example, we identified a good idea maybe to implement some, let's call it pop-up, some, let's say, standalone box, very well designed with some let's say, movable terrace, and to implement additional coffee shop or bistro into the parking spot, which can bring you additional attractiveness of your concept, which will generate a couple of euros. But why not? It's again what we talk about at the very beginning. It's about the footfall. It's about the meeting point. It's about the freshness of the retail park. So from financial perspective, okay, nothing special. From, let's say, marketing point of view, very, very important how to use the space if you have a space.
Yes. Do you like, would you like? Jel možemo samo mikrofon? Da, we have Đura Stanić from Fashion Outlet Park. Thank you.
Hello everyone, I'm Đura from Marine Holdings. Question for all the panelists. Do you have the information how many visitors are coming outside of their primary catchment area for the retail parks? And since we are witnessing a lot of projects in the pipeline, are you worried in regards with the overlapping of the catchment area, and will that result in the decrease of turnover?
All right, who wants to answer the question first?
Yes, more or less, we are trying to cover all the, let's say, the cities itself is a priority thing, and of course the catchment area firstly has to be covered from the city where you are developing, but also the catchment area and the cities, depending from the city, basically the proportion we had or something what's analyzing in our property management analysis, it's 15 to 20% of the catchment area, but also you always take a look and you always you are always careful not to correspond these two catchment areas next to each other. So you basically have the inner city and just the outskirts that actually cover the project you are developing.
I would say it depends on a location of a retail park. For example, in Pančevo, you have a very central location to the existing city center. In certain cases, like Zrenjanin, you have an outskirts, which is the biggest residential called Bagljaš. So it really depends, but again, that's why we're constantly talking, and I think we've all agreed on that, and the feeling and the entertainment and the complex being, you know, something that the people will want to come back to is the most relevant factor to the catchment as well. Because now for the, you know, cities like Zrenjanin where people drive bicycles, or Novi Sad, it is important, but it's reachable to them. It just depends whether they will be able to carry what they bought if they buy something. So it's really a, you know, tough question to really analyze. We have some numbers, of course, but again, it's to the local habits a lot. We've seen a big in Novi Sad where it was actually a retail park in its first phase, and then it grew into a shopping center. It was something that was, I would say, difficultly accepted by the city of Novi Sad, where people are used to, you know, having a little bit of a slower pace. So it's really also a combination of the local city habits and then the location of the park, and then again the job the developer does to maintain the interest high. So this is my opinion.
Again, I can fully confirm, of course, we do not have any let's say precise number regarding the let's call it second catchment area, especially because of this fact, and especially due to the fact that really custom shopping habits here in Serbia are not slightly, but I would say sometimes significantly different comparing to other, let's say, Central European markets. We primarily count on the prime catchment area only and strictly, because you have to be, we would like to be really very careful and precautious and precise when calculating the catchment area, since due to two aspects, since the shopping habits and the let's say the manner, the habit to use the car for the shopping is really completely different comparing to Czech, Austria, Hungary. That's the first aspect. Second aspect, of course, is the purchase power. I used to tell to my colleagues, please don't be afraid. You will see within the next 5-6 years those habits, the number of cars hopefully will significantly increase, and then the shopping habits will be changed. But at this moment it's not a case, so we have to be very careful. So the prime catchment area is the only factor which I'm, let's say, searching. it's difficult to comment. Special discipline, special topic could be to discuss specific catchment area across the borders. Typically in case of Vršac, typically in case of Loznica, for example, when we are talking about Loznica, when we are talking about, okay, Subotica also, sorry, when we are talking about, let's say, cross-borders, effects, cross-border shopping. Again, my personal experience, 10, 15 years ago, we used to have this cross-border shopping also between the Czech Republic and Poland, and it used to be very, very popular. Today, no one is going to Poland except a couple of people. So also those, let's say, special catchment areas are going to be changed here on the long-term basis. That's my opinion, that's my perspective.
All right. So to conclude this panel, just a brief overview. So we're going to have like 5 retail park chains in Serbia. It's going to be Shopi by MPC, Aviv Park by Aviv Arlon, Stop Shop from Imo Finance, and Capital Park for Poseidon, and now Nest from RC Invest. We also have Big that's going to develop retail parks. So we have like 5, 6 retail park chains. They're expanding across Serbia. They are becoming hybrid. They're having more small size units entertainment. Entertainment is going to be important because when we follow the Western trends with the increase of online shopping, retail parks are going to become a place where people will meet and shop. So entertainment and leisure is still important. Thank you very much. We're going to have a coffee break. The next panel will be about shopping centers. Thank you.